our broadcast right now. Hello, everyone. And it looks like people are joining. We're going to wait a little bit for everybody to be live. And my name is Risa Eldon.
Welcome to the webinar.
Sorry about that. And my name is Risa Eldon. I'm here with Susan Winterstein. And we are, obviously not super thrilled to be talking about the subject today, but we are happy that you're going to be joining us. I think we're going to cover some really great pointers and tips of what you can do with your business right now. Sorry about that, guys. And we'll get started here in a couple minutes. So just watching kind of a bunch of you join live. Hopefully you're joining us from all across the globe, and we'll be with you in a couple seconds. Great. And for those of you who did ask and did email in, this will be recorded. So you will be able to catch us if you're not in front of the computer and you just want to walk around and you're taking care of your kids, you can put your headphones in. We're not going to be sharing screens. This is really just a fireside chat between Susan and I, just giving you kind of helpful pointers on what you can do right now with your business during this troubling time. All right, so it's about 9:31. We'll give everybody one more minute to join. Again, for those of you who are just joining, my name is Risa Eldon. I'm the head of industry partnerships here at House and Ivy, and I'm here alongside Susan Winterstein, who is the founder and principal of Savvy Interiors. Thank you so much, Susan, for giving us your time and your quiet space. You have an awesome studio. You're based in San Diego, and Susan has been in business for over 18 years. Did I get that number right?
Yeah, it just hit 18 in February.
Okay, great. And she has a really interesting business model. She has an interior design firm with its own general contractor license. Susan is very, very knowledgeable. Some of you might already know her. She partakes a lot in our Facebook group, giving kind of insight to other designers, businesses, general contractors, everybody kind of on what we can be doing right now to move through this chapter. So let's go ahead and still see people joining. If you do have questions, again, this is really for you. So we want to make sure that we're answering your questions. Go ahead and under the questions, you can drop your questions in right there and we will make sure. I already see a bunch of questions coming in. That's awesome. I will go through my list of questions and then I have one of my team members here helping us moderate. We will try to get to everybody's questions and we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. So one more time, I'm Risa. I'm here with Susan, part of the House Ivy community. We offer an all-in-one solution that empowers home remodeling and design professionals to stand out, win more clients, and manage their projects efficiently and profitably. Right now, at a time where it's easy to feel super isolated, it's also really important for us as a community to come together and learn and support each other. So we're really looking forward to this first in a series of our resilience webinars, fireside chats, designed really to make your business stronger for now and for the future. So Susan, thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned earlier, has been in business for just about 18 years and has been through the 2008 recession, has been through a lot of different obstacles throughout her career. She is an interior design firm with her own general contractor license, so knows a lot of the rules, regulations. Obviously, as you so eloquently put it, Susan, you said you're not a business coach, but we're very grateful to have you join us today and share your expertise with us. So here's what we're planning on covering today. Really how to plan for what your business will look like in 2 months, kind of resetting your 2020 company goals while continuing to move forward and stay focused, and really how to structure your work from home environment to stay productive and working remotely with your clients. And then new ideas for service offerings, and then we'll wrap with answering all of your questions. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about what you're doing right now. How are you planning for what your business will look like in the next 2 months, Susan?
Well, it was a lot of planning. So just to kind of back up a little bit, the beginning of 2020, we were really ramping up for growth this year. We really thought we were going to see another 20% increase in sales. I added to our team. We added 2 additional team members, a procurement person and another junior designer. So we had a full working team of 8 designers, 3 lead designers, 3 junior designers, an extra junior designer, and a procurement person. So um, going into this, the difference between now and the difference between 2008 is that in 2008, we started to see the decline over time. I remember because we were doing some high-end flips at the time. We saw the real estate market start to get a little squirrely and a little scary. But we kind of knew it was coming, and there was some time to kind of adapt. We didn't have the demand. The demand was slowly kind of tapering off until the stock market took a dump, and then everybody was like scrambling. And we had to kind of do things differently back then to try to build back up to where we were today. But the difference here is that although we heard grumblings of it in February, it really didn't hit all of our businesses until March. And for most intents and purposes, all of us designers were super busy and we're in full production mode. So for us, we have probably each designer has about 5 or 6 different projects, and they all range from furniture design through full-on remodeling and construction. And as being in all the different phases, we were in a proposal phase for a couple large remodels that were a good $200,000 projects, and then also doing some furniture and deliveries and placing orders for rooms of furniture and doing designs and proposals for those clients. When everything first hit and we made the decision to kind of work remotely as a team, I was still really cautiously optimistic that clients were going to continue. And we're in California, so things are a little bit more intense here than they are in the kind of the Midwest states where, they're not really shutting things down or telling you to stay home. So I knew we had to work differently very quickly. So we quickly, re-upped our Zoom membership so that we could use that unlimited and not be capped by time. We started reaching out and letting our clients know that we are going to be meeting with them virtually. As a construction company in San Diego, even though our governor said that construction is an essential service, I think the intent of his message was for infrastructure, hospitals, plumbing and electrical emergencies. If you have personal safety issues where you don't have running water in your home, that sort of thing can continue. But there are a lot of design build firms that are still sending construction crews out to do remodels and high-end remodels. I don't think remodeling $3 million properties was part of the intent of that exemption for construction. So it frustrates me as a business owner because I've pulled all of our subs back. I don't want to be responsible for contributing to contractors being in clients' homes that have children, for either the contractor to get sick or our clients to get sick. So we kind of pulled back because we felt it was non-essential, but then everything stopped. A lot of our business is predicated on those progress payments because legally we don't collect upfront for all of the labor. So we get a percentage of each progress payment that comes in, and that sustains us and pays our overhead. So when those stopped, we could, all of our income stopped. The good news is that we did have some reserves. So we do have some savings of our current profitability that hadn't gone out yet as far as, overhead payments and stuff. We do have an account and we do have a business line of credit that we can access if necessary. And so I had to make a choice very early on because I don't know that the crisis is right here, right now. I think a lot of the crisis is going to hit us several months from now when we see the fallout of everybody trying to get back to work and the income loss reports and the effect on the stock market. So for us personally, our client base is mostly higher end, C-level executives and professionals, either in the financial markets, attorneys, or in the medical field, doctors and stuff. So for our doctor clients, they've kind of gone off the grid, right? They are first responders, they're out there, they're doing what they need to do, so we're not going to bug them. But their project stopped. My other was a attorney who had a firm who had to lay off all of their staff because of the stock market and how everything crashed. Even though we're confident it might come back, we just don't know when. So he has to press pause on his project. So initially, the first thing I did was I had to communicate with my employees, which just about was the hardest day ever, and lay them off. I kept them for 1 week to kind of assess where we are, give me all the project updates, let me know what you're doing right here, right now, where everything stands. If we're not doing construction, do you really have to order that sink drain now, or can that wait? you know, what makes sense to do now and what makes sense to do later. So it was really triaging. I've been looking into all of the different unemployment insurance options. So they do, state of California did waive the 1-week waiting period to collect unemployment insurance as long as you, this is related to the COVID, and that you don't have to go out and look for another job. So I want to hire all of these people back, and I'm hoping this is temporary and that this 2 to 3 week or even 4-week period that I have them furloughed or laid off, that I have an opportunity to bring them back in 2 to 3 weeks, because I've set aside reserves and looked at our overall financial picture to see how that's going to carry us. Because as we start getting back in, there's some projects that might pick back up. There's other projects that are going to cancel. And then new clients that want to support a small business or come in, there's going to be that lead time before you meet with them, you start the design process, you sign your contracts, you're getting into the design, you're sending a proposal, and then they're actually accepting that proposal and moving forward. So that period of time is kind of why I'm saving for right now, because I'm not going to be able to keep my team employed right here, right now, when there's no work to be done, when I can keep them employed ordering those sink drains 3 to 4 weeks from now and putting together proposals and kind of ramping back up, so that I need to backfill that hole. So right now we're looking at minimum payments on credit cards. We are the type of firm that we don't carry any debt, so we pay off our credit cards every month with all of the purchasing and stuff that we do. We're going to keep balances on that because there are some rumblings that they're going to be waiving those interest rates or giving us kind of some sort of a break on our credit card payments. But we do have 3 business cards and they all have high balances. So if we had to kind of float some expenses that way, we can do that. We have a line of credit. We've also applied for an emergency SBA loan. I don't know how quickly they're going to process that sort of stuff, but I know that they are trying to get interest rates lower. The lowest I've heard in California so far is somewhere between 2 and 3%. But if we can access that, we're talking to our landlord about deferring our rent this month or next month or for a period of months, and maybe adding it on to the end of our lease. They're a big kind of corporate strip mall, so I'm not sure how amenable they're going to be to that. But I don't want to just not pay it, because we're hoping to expand a year from now and move into a larger space. So I don't want to have any dings on my credit. So I do want to talk to them about maybe extending that. Same with our personal finances. I mean, it's really cash planning and figuring out what our resources are. We're real estate heavy, so talking to our mortgage lenders, anything I can do to reduce expenses right now, I'm going to need those to utilize a couple weeks from now when I do want to bring my team back. And the big question mark between now and 2008 is, are we going to come back to a pent-up demand in the design field where people have been home and they're like, oh my God, I can't look at my kitchen one more day, or my bathroom needs a remodel and I'm going to support this small business, and my husband's job wasn't really affected or my job wasn't affected, and so we can afford this and let's do this now. That could be a very likely scenario. It could also be that because our stock market took such a hit, and because I think if we get back too soon and our economy starts to rev up again and we have another health crisis, we're going to see another dump in the stock market and confidence in the industries. And so people might pull back a little bit and might be saying, you know, I just need to sit tight. I have sensed from some of my clients, I've told them that they could, when we get back to work, nobody wants to do any demo until we're sure where this is going. Understandable. Everybody who wants things wants them ordered, but doesn't want to pay you yet for it because they're not sure it's really going to come in. So I've given them a 30-day, which means that I will, as long as I have a signed or accepted proposal on the materials that I'm ordering, I'm giving them 30 days to actually payment once I know that those items are coming in, because people are really a little squirrely about giving you a check for $15,000 to order fixtures. And they want to know that those are going to come in, and that's a big outlay of cash to another company that they're fearful, are you still going to be here? So it's a lot of client reassurance. It's okay. We've been here for 18 years. We're not going anywhere. If you want to go ahead and send a check, we won't deposit it. We'll go ahead and get things ordered. I already have a signed proposal accepted, things like that. So I know that was like one big run-on sentence.
No,
that
super
was like one question and I just kept going. So you got to stop me.
No, it was all really helpful, and there's actually a slew of really awesome questions coming in. One thing that I was wondering, and we did have a question from the audience, is, and you might not have the answer for everybody's businesses might be different,
Right.
but what do you think is an appropriate line of credit as a proportion to total revenue?
I think that's a really good question. I think that the banks will determine that based on your overall profitability. So that's why it's super, my drum I beat all the time is you've got to know what your numbers are. I mean, if you can't show a bank, I am a good credit risk, here's my credit rating, here's my revenue, here's my profitability, here's how much I make a year, here's my pipeline, whatever. If you can't show that to a bank, I don't know that they're going to categorically say, yeah, you're a great risk. Like, let us give you this. I don't know what they're likely to do. In the state of California, they've also talked about doing grants. So I just don't know. But for us, with our business, we were shopping line of credits like a year ago just to have, because we had companies coming to us saying, hey, we can open you a line of credit. And I'm like, great, okay. Even if I never use it, it's nice to have that reserve. And so I think everybody should be thinking either credit card or some sort of a bank loan you should have, because you're going to need that kind of startup money again when everybody does get back to work to kind of ramp back up before people are going to part with their money. And then once profitability reports come out in 6 months from these larger businesses, I mean, Disneyland shut down. I mean, that money's gone. They're not going to get that back. And so their profitability is going to go down. That's going to affect their stock. That stock price is going to go down. That's going to affect people's portfolios. I mean, it's this whole thing. So it just really depends on what this, federal package is going to do and if they agree on it. And okay, that was like long after your answer. So anyway, so I think it's going to depend on the banks to make that decision.
Just so you know, somebody from the audience said, Susan, that was awesome. So people like your longer.
Okay, good. All right.
It's helpful information. And so
there's a lot of information.
Yeah, and this is a question coming from the audience. I think it's, a good question. Are you assuming and planning, and based on like your plan with your employees? By the way, if you have never met Susan, she also has 5 children that are all women. And I think that's important to include here because her team is really an extension of her family. So losing her team and making this decision is, and I know with a lot of the professionals that I'm acquainted with, that you treat your employees, they're not employees, they're an extension of your team, your name, your brand. So I know this is really, you've done all the research so that you can maintain everything as it was. But the question here is, are you assuming and planning for this situation to only last 2 to 4 weeks? And what if it lasts longer, as some media is saying that it could be months?
It will, well, how do I say this? Nobody knows the answer. It would be impossible to predict how long this would last. If you're asking me, my thoughts are, I think it's going to last months. I mean, I would love to be like Susie, optimistic, Rosie. Oh, it's going to be great. We're all going to get back to work. My business is good. I'm fine. Not to worry. I'm planning for it probably to last months. And so I'm trying to put systems into place now that allow me to come back. But I don't see, given where things are right here, right now, without more information, how we're going to get back to work in 15 days. I think there's still going to be some high restrictions. I think people have still lost a lot of money. I think the stock market still needs to come back, and we have to have confidence that this stay at home is actually working. I think when it doesn't work, or when our health crisis gets worse, not only are we thinking about getting back to work and like hoping that our businesses thrive and survive, we have to think about our personal health. I mean, I could go start a construction project a month from now and one of my contractors could get sick. And it could be just another extension of where we are. So until we have either some sort of a concrete immunization or medication, that they're talking about different therapeutics that are going to work for this particular flu, that we can slow it down and get it under control. I'm not really quite sure how just staying home for 15 days is really going to have an impact, because I think this has bigger, longer, and there are a lot of businesses in my shopping center that are going out of business. Like, they're not going to come back. A couple cycling studios, a couple of the restaurants here were tentative at best before all this started, and now they're like, this is their reason to go bankrupt. They're going to shut down. So I don't think I think there's safety in numbers and that we're all in this together and we all understand that. But I personally don't see it going away anytime soon, which is even more important to like have your plan of attack. And I think that's what takes me back to 2008, is because my business model back then was very different than it is now.
Mhm. Okay, and this is an important question. You and I talked about this, but does furloughing an employee instead of laying them off prevent them from collecting unemployment? Or is it the same thing?
As far as, okay, so I'm not an attorney and I don't know. I have a attorney on retainer, an employment attorney on retainer that we pay monthly. And I think I've probably used up all 12 of my months in the last 3 days talking to her, because she's been invaluable. And there are a lot of HR people out there that are invaluable also. What I have figured out is that the state of California is thoroughly overwhelmed with the unemployment applications, insurance applications. So normally 2,000 people apply, and I think on last week 80,000 people applied. So the way that I heard it works is there's two options: unemployment completely, you are not working, you will get a percentage of your pay up to a certain amount, and there's varying amounts, but it's before taxes, or there's no taxes taken out. So it would be as the equivalent almost of what you would be making with your taxes taken out. That's one option. The other option I've heard that's out there for the state of California is you can reduce their work up to 60% and go to a work share program. You have to apply for that as a small business owner. You have to have at least 2 employees do it. So my husband and I applied for a work share where we can reduce our workflow by 60%, work 40%, and then we can add other employees onto that work share if I need my essential people. So like I said, I essentially laid off 4 employees. One of them was already on maternity leave, so that doesn't really affect her until after April 6th, and she might go on an extended family leave. So she's good. The other 3 I laid off completely, 100%, because I didn't have enough work, because their work I could consolidate down to the other 3 employees that I have, and I put them at a reduced 60%. In talking to the attorney last night, it sounds like I can furlough them up to maybe even 90%, but you just have to keep talking to the EDD office, which I had to laugh at because you can't call the EDD office right now and get a live person. They're just thoroughly overwhelmed. So it sucks because there are no guarantees. I don't know, and I feel horrible, and I struggle with this daily as far as I don't want to leave our employees out in the cold. Like, I don't want them to feel disconnected. I don't want them to feel forgotten. I don't want them to feel like I'm not planning on bringing them back, because as soon as I can, I will. I'm just trying to consolidate right here, right now, so that I can bring them back. Because if I get myself into a whole pile of debt now that I can't dig out of, then I'm not going to be able to help them. And the other thing I want to say is that even though you have money in the bank, it doesn't necessarily mean it belongs to you. I can't take my clients' money, deposits money. I can take the profitability from that to help pay my employees, but I can't take the money they sent me that's earmarked for me to order something, because it's not my money. And so I could have chosen to take the money that we had in the bank and continue to pay employees with the hope that in a month from now we could replenish that and pay off our credit card bills to handle, but that's robbing Peter to pay Paul. And it makes me very anxious, because if any of my clients came to me with a demand and said, I just lost my job, I've lost everything, I'm losing my house, can I please get my $5,000 back from all my plumbing fixtures? And I had to say, no, I'm sorry, that money's already spent, but I didn't order your plumbing fixtures either, because I paid my team to work on your project, then, or work on another project, then that's not going to fly. And I don't want to be in that position. So again, it's really about trying to think about where your funds are. Do you have the profitability to just sustain a team, or pay other people to do their job? But earmark that money. Like, don't spend money you don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. Great points. There's a lot of questions coming in, by the way, and I'm trying to go through my questions and your questions. I'm sorry, you can't see the screen. There's a lot of awesome comments coming in too.
Yeah. Okay.
Where are you getting the information about opportunities provided by the government? Is that through your attorney, or is that you doing research?
Both. So we're on an email where the attorney is sending us information. you know, like the different articles and things like that about for California specific for employees. And then I'm also I'm watching what's going on the Senate floor. You know, I'm watching both parties like put their plans. I'm reading both the plans and trying to figure out what's going to help, what's not going to help. Applying for everything and anything we possibly can, talking to our lenders, talking to the credit card companies, talking to the mortgage companies. You know, my husband and I are both work together and, you know, have for years. Since 2007, I think we've, you know, he came to work with Savvy. So we are obviously in this knee deep, right? And, you know, our entire livelihood is on this business. I think ultimately we'll be okay if we can get some relief from some of these things. I don't necessarily feel like they need to like stop my mortgage, but I think if they could add the payments on 12 months from now, or when I go to sell my house and just extend my mortgage and give me a little bit of a reprieve now, that again allows me to kind of hang on to some assets and things like that so that when I need to pay things I can't, like I have to have internet on, right? And I don't know that my internet provider is going to give me a free month. You know, I don't necessarily, as a business owner, I knew what the risks were being an entrepreneur. I knew, you know, going into this that if something happened, especially after 2008, that you have to be prepared. So I'm not saying that I want things for free. I'm saying that just work with me a little bit and let me kind of dig out of this because we're all in it. I mean, it's not just us, right? It's everybody. So.
Yeah. Okay. And to reiterate, what a question's coming in about how many employees you have and what percentage of your revenue or profit are you putting aside for such unanticipated events?
Okay, so what was the first part again? How many
How many?
employees?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a total of 7 employees that, and then if you count, and then my husband and I, that would be 9. So, because we're employees of our corporation. So I have 7 others though, outside of John and I. I laid off 4 and I kept 3. And those 3 that I kept are at a reduced hourly by 60%. And we're
Okay.
still, one of them has health insurance, which is the biggest crux right now, is because they elected health insurance, and I don't know that they're still eligible if they're not full-time. That's one of the things going through the Senate. So we're continuing to pay her premium to keep her on the health insurance.
Got it.
If we can do that, which probably isn't legal, but you know, don't turn me in. And I think the second part of that question was how much to set aside. It really depends on your business. It really depends on what your outlay is and you know, what you need. I have a business that has high overhead. I have way more overhead now than I had in 2008. And I remember thinking in 2008 how grateful I was that I didn't have overhead, because as I had to adapt and change, like my income needs weren't as great because I didn't have a big overhead. But as you grow and as you increase profitability and you reinvest that back into your company, and as far as people and designers that you want to replicate what you've done so that you can be more profitable, you have to take on overhead. It's impossible. You couldn't possibly do the amount of billings as a single sole proprietor and have the income. And we needed a certain income. I've got 5 kids, you know, I got 1 in college. I have mortgages, I have all the rest. So this has been, you know, so knowing our numbers was probably the most important. I think at this point, as far as how much, it's a really hard question to answer until I know that I have proposal contracts from people that are confident going forward. So we do have some clients that have not been affected by the financial piece, and they're still willing to move forward as soon as I have them in contract and I know that I'm going to have that profitability and that that contract's not going to change. So as soon as you get a proposal approved and somebody, as my clients clicks approve on my proposal, that's a contractual agreement. That's saying that I am agreeing to pay you X amount of dollars, and for those dollars, you're going to give me this. Then I know what my profitability is. And once I can run those numbers and say, okay, so for the month of May, I know we're going to make X amount of dollars, I can hire back on these 2 people. So it's really about understanding like what you're proposing, when you're going to realize that money, when you're going to get that money, And then again, not spending money that's not yours. If you have a $20,000 furniture proposal out there and your profitability on that is 2,000, it doesn't mean you have 20,000 to go out and spend on employees and to bring them back. It means you have $2,000. And so what does that get you? Does that get you 10 hours a week for 2 months? But all of that has to keep, so the lag effect that we're going to see from this is you have your clients now, you're going to finish those up and get those done. And then all of the people that are going back to work are going to be so overwhelmed with like getting back to work, plus the health crisis part and piece. And then you've got to try to figure out how are you going to clients to kind of backfill what you lost over here in your profitability. So you've got to now get new clients. And then the challenge is going to be how confident are they going to be in your business? And what are you doing now to exude that confidence that you're going to be here? And how are you pivoting and doing and taking on jobs that maybe you normally wouldn't take on because there may be fewer jobs in the marketplace? Whereas, I mean, let's be honest, the last couple of years, we haven't had to market that aggressively to get work. There are designers out there that are getting work that probably shouldn't be getting work. And that sounds terrible to say, but there's enough work to go around.
Let's go back a little bit too, and even taking you back to where you were in 2007, you didn't have the overhead, you didn't have employees. Let's focus on if you're a small business and maybe you don't have employees. What, and this question is coming in from the audience, what would you focus on? And I know we have a long list of questions, so I appreciate we're trying to get to everything. Maybe we need a Susan WWSD, what would Susan do round two? But what would you do if you were a small business? Earlier, we talked about like focusing on your internal, you know, even going into your house profile, asking for testimonials. We talked about clients allowing, old clients allowing people to put their construction signs in front of their homes, even if they're not doing construction, just to get visibility. What would you focus on? And without going into too much depth, you know, systems, processes, those kinds of things, and what you were doing in 2007, if you didn't have, you know, if your business was a little bit smaller.
Right. Well, the difference between now and 2007 and 8 is there was no social media back then. So you really were word of mouth or advertising. I think as a small business, first, you really need to know your numbers. You really need to know how much you need to make a month to make it worth it, right? And what kind of jobs you're taking. You need to open your eyes to other opportunities and other ways of generating income. So I think the biggest takeaway from 2007 and 8 was I noticed that although design jobs may have slowed down, like new remodels and things like that, what was still strong, the market that was still strong in our area was people that had to move. They had to move for a job, they had to move, they wanted to move up a little bit. Interest rates were still fairly low, they were getting really good deals, house flippers. All of those industries stayed fairly consistent. People still were closing escrow on homes. And what did they need? They needed paint, they needed carpet, they needed flooring, they needed to know where their table would go. There wasn't a ton of furniture, but it was, I used to call it my paint and accent pillow period, because everybody wanted to do something, but they didn't have these big budgets anymore. So they wanted to repaint and they wanted to get throw pillows, you know, to just kind of freshen it up. So I think making sure that you're talking to your local real estate agents, getting, you know, ping them every once in a while. What can I do to help you? I'm sure business is slow right now, or it's awful trying to show a house. Can I help you with some virtual staging? You know, that sort of thing is a great way to kind of keep that ball rolling and meeting people. Networking is huge. Anything you can do to network in your area, get together with happy hours and different professionals during this time so that you're front of mind when somebody asks them, you know, how you can help. Be open to, you know, we've all, myself included, I can't speak for everyone, but for myself, we're fairly niched in what we're really good at and what we shine on and what's most profitable for us. At this point, I've started looking at a lot of different things. I've taken on just to keep my designers busy, you know, like here, great, here's a virtual design up this room, and I'll give that to one of the designers. Projects that we normally wouldn't take. Be prepared that your vendors and have those relationships with your vendors and try to keep those strong and try to promote their businesses so that they protect you. Because one of the things that I noticed in 2008 is that even the vendors were really struggling with a recession and an economy, and they started slashing their prices and kind of cutting the designer out of it. And so they would sell things for a lot cheaper than what I could buy them, or they would be passing along my discount. But use that to your advantage and start charging maybe a slightly different way, maybe up your design fees, and then pass through some, even though that I'm like, so the antithesis of that, I'm all about like selling at a fair trade value. But if your vendors are going to be discounting, work with them and negotiate with them and say, if I sell X amount for you, or I can, resell your furniture, can you extend me another 10%? Because they may be going to their suppliers and asking them for an extra deep discount. So it's all this trickle. So don't be afraid to have those conversations with your vendors that you use the most often and say, what can you guys do for me? I want to sell your product. I want to get it out there. But I can't have you slashing your prices and kind of cutting me out of that loop. So, make sure you're having those conversations also. But I'd say just open your mind to doing things a little differently and taking on jobs you normally wouldn't take, and then really focus on when you do get back to work, how are you streamlining and working smarter, not harder? So I think because we've been so busy over the last couple of years, it's really easy to push aside your marketing efforts, your organizational efforts, what you're doing to prepare clients, all of that sort of stuff. And I think that's a really important thing to hone into during this time is come back stronger, come back more organized, come back more ready to service clients, because we might also see that really built up in demand, and you get a whole bunch of demand. The last thing you want to do is start turning away business 2 months from now because you can't accommodate the amount of work coming your way because all of your friends and network want to support you, but you don't have the infrastructure to support that growth. And infrastructure really is so critical to growing, is having that structure underlying that that's the foundation of your business. So I would say get your foundation sorted out during this time where it's slower. Be ready for other opportunities, open your eyes to new doors that are opening, and then move forward and keep up with your proposals, getting those approved, because those again are contracts that you can enforce. Invoicing, keep up with all of that, keep up with your advertising and marketing efforts, put time and energy into that, maybe have some sort of a pseudo refresh or something that you want to do, some sort of a package that you want to offer people that are back to work. Think about how you're going to put that together. Pick your profiles that you want to focus your time and energy on and focus them on those. So those are all really great things to kind of get your head back in the game and be prepared for when people do come back.
Yeah, that was kind of my next question. Somebody had asked, most of my projects like yours are on hold. And Susan, because I know your business, I know you're not furniture heavy, you're construction heavy.
Right.
And the question was, what ideas can we implement to keep some business going with some revenue coming in? Is there a way to reach out to some potential clients on house to gain work during this quarantine time? And I think you've gotten super creative with what you're doing. Obviously, it's hard to get your head like out of the gutter when you're like, but then you need to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
Any recommendations there to keep that alternate source of revenue coming in?
I think with furniture, even though we're not as furniture heavy as a lot of firms are, I think it's really important to, again, keep those communication lines open with your vendors, because if they're relying on imports, we don't know what the import market necessarily is going to be in a couple months. And so there's make sure that the things that you're getting are in stock and everything else. That wasn't really an answer to your question. So your question really was, should you be reaching out to old clients? Yes, you should be talking. You should be talking to all your old clients. You should be emailing them on social media, whatever avenue you have. You should be reaching out. And my philosophy and a great book that's out there that I don't know, maybe you guys would find it boring, but I liked it. It's called It's the Science of Selling. And I found it fascinating that they had this experiment where they would give people at this event cola, like a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi, or in a glass bottle, really nice. And the waiters would come around and give them a free Pepsi to certain tables, and other tables they wouldn't. And then they'd have somebody come in and try to sell that table something right after they had gotten something for free versus the table that didn't get anything for free. And their sales were like 30 to 40% higher at the table that got the soda for free. And it just kind of illustrates, and I probably really botched that example, but you can read it in the book. But it has been part of my company philosophy is that, you are providing value, you are a service professional. So what are you going to give some of your clients for free? and then come back in with your pitch of what it is, your value add, what you're selling. And so for us, like we've been trying to do a couple things, like we did a kids coloring contest where I have that as a downloadable and you can have it, we'll rebrand it for you, but it's kind of to get all the kids, and it's to get to my ideal client, which is, you know, two parents working, stuck home with their kids in, you know, grade school, middle school, high, you know, kind of that age range that, you know, I'm usually, our clients, our kitchen remodels are usually like second time homeowners. They're moving up into that nice, you know, million five home, and they want the nice upgraded kitchen, and their kids are like fourth, fifth grade, somewhere in there. So I thought, okay, what can I give that would be little of my time, but replicatable, and do some sort of contest. So we're doing this kids coloring art contest. So I'm getting past clients and people that have followed us in our community for a while sending me some of their snapshots of my kids working on their layout, and you know, there's graph paper in there and they can color, and then we're going to give away like a $50 Amazon gift card, and I'm going to like professionally draft up their room to the winner, you know, to somebody who's the most creative. So it gives them something to do. It keeps them busy. Your logo's on every page. It's laying around the house. People have you front of mind. It's something that they can print off and do, or they can do it on digital on their iPads. But your name and your logo is there probably each day, and they can keep printing it out. So it was replicatable. So I've really had a lot of fun with that idea, because that's giving me something to continue to talk about versus, oh, poor me, our work is all slowed down. Feel bad for me, come back. Don't you want to design your kitchen? Like, how many times can you ask people if they're tired of looking at their house? Like, I asked it once, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to get old really fast. Like people are going to get pissed looking at their house, me reminding them how bad their houses look.
Yeah,
So
getting
what am I getting them? In my group, the other thing we did is kind of send me your picture of your design question and I'll tell you what I would do. So it's like these little small snapshots of somebody will send me a picture of their kitchen, or like, I'm thinking of remodeling, what would you do? And off the cuff, without knowing them maybe, or even knowing a little bit about them, I might give my design advice based on budgets. Like, well, if I had all the money in the world, I'd do this. And then if I was really on a tight budget, you could do this. And then if you wanted to save and put it over here, I would do this, and kind of give them, again, people to start thinking. And it's just that ping every day that hopefully keeps it front of mind, that, okay, like, we know what we're doing. And if you agree with what I said, great, you're on my page. If you don't agree and you think I'm full of shit, then you're going to get off. Oh, sorry. So anyway, it's just coming up with those types of little freebie things that you can provide value during this time that that people might enjoy. And so then when you're ready to come back and say, hey, we are designing up kitchens again, and we're going to offer everybody in the month of May, if you come back and sign a kitchen contract, you know, we're going to upgrade. I don't like doing discounts, but I like doing like a free thing with it. Like, instead of discounting the value, because then you've just set the new price, right? If you give 25% off, you've set the new price that people have evaluated your services for. Instead of doing that, if you keep your pricing the same and you value add, like if you sign a kitchen contract, we're offering a, you know, I don't know, like some decor item, an upgrade on your glass in the cabinets, or you know, a small, you know, you could work with another vendor and see if there's something that's, you know, like a giveaway, like this Smeg toaster or something, I don't know. So, you know, you think about what your value add is, or maybe it's a free ad. The easiest thing to give away is your hourly. Not that it doesn't take you time, but it's a soft cost versus a hard cost. So you could say a couple extra hours of revision time, or waiving our in-person presentation meeting time costs, or that sort of thing. So you could do something like that.
That sounds awesome. And for those that do have work still coming in, I saw a couple different questions. I'm curious to know how designers are managing to keep working with the projects they have in terms of selecting materials and not having person-to-person meetings, all virtually, so they can keep the money coming in. And really, how are you managing the creative side and process? Obviously, if you can't drop off and touch and feel the furnishings or the accessories or the textiles to your clients. If you can't take a client into a showroom to see bathroom fixtures, how do you best recommend to virtually share these items with your clients?
Well, Obviously, any kind of portal like Zoom, that's been our mainstay right now in meeting and doing presentations with screen shares and things like that. A lot of it's going to come down to, how do our clients order furniture from us when they're why do we go to market? Why do we go to KBIS? Why do we go to these places? Is because we're already supposed to have a good understanding of what that fixture is like or what that furniture piece is like, because there's no way to, not every fixture and not every furniture piece is shown in every showroom. I hear you. I think it's going to be hard. It's going to suck. The only thing I can say is order finished samples from your rep. If you're looking at Kohler, talk to your Kohler rep. Say, can you send me finished samples of this brushed champagne so that I know that it matches this finished sample from this Delta? Rely on your reps. Like I can call one of my reps and say, I need a water filter that matches this Brizo faucet in a matte black, but I don't know if this matte black is the same and what's the best ones. Rely on your reps. They're the ones that are the experts. And so rely on their feedback and then relay that to the client. Like, listen, I talked to my rep. This is their best recommendation. They work with this product all the time. And then you may have to, like I said, adapt your policy. And if they do wind up ordering it and it shows up, by the time you guys are back to work to install it and you need to exchange it, ask for that leniency with the vendors. Like, listen, my clients really want to order this. They're a little nervous because of XYZ. Can I get an exception of 60 days to return this? If we open it up and we decide that it's not the right finish, can I reselect? And can you keep that, and I think most vendors are going to work with you on that sort of stuff. They're going to see the logic in that you haven't been able to come into a showroom. So if you order it, we're going to give you a free exchange. With no restocking fee, because they're going to have to keep busy also. So that's the beauty of us all being in together. It's all a negotiation. That's all it is.
Two things I have to tell you. Please tell Susan how much we appreciate her candor and straightforward answers. So that's awesome. Definitely another comment I wanted to tell you is your common grace is inspiring in uncertain times. Your experience navigating success from 2008 and today is invaluable to the startup designer. And I think that's why we're all here, Good. Right? Because we want to build the sense of community. We started hosting these virtual happy hours on Thursday. Susan was there. We had, it's not just for designers, it's for everybody, architects, builders, you name it. Anybody can come. I'm happy to share the link with you guys, but we had about 25 pros on that line. And we really want you to feel like you have a community to lean on and that you can leverage Susan's experiences and implement this into your own business. We're in this together, right? And there are more interesting questions coming in. Again, happy to, people said, yes, please round two. Happy to make that happen. We're trying to do a series here where we are interviewing a designer, interviewing a builder, interviewing an accountant, a lawyer,
HR person.
HR. Yeah, all of the above. So we're trying to do, that's what the Resilient series. And just like you, we're trying to work as fast as we can to provide you with this educational kind of content with actionable takeaways that you can implement in your own business. So if I'm not getting to all your questions, there's over 700 of you here. I'm trying my best to get to all of them. But here's an interesting question for you, Susan. If you signed a new proposal today, congratulations, that's amazing to whoever wrote in, but how would you handle starting this project, measuring in the house? Is there a way to keep working on this project during this time?
It depends on the project. I mean, if you're doing final measures for cabinetry, is going to be a lot different than, DIY client measures for furniture layout. So I would protect myself and say, if you would like to continue to move forward, super excited to be working on your project. As you know, I can't come over there to do a full measure. Let's do a Zoom call or FaceTime so I can walk through with you and show you what areas I need measured so that we can keep the ball rolling and I can start to scale this into our programs. So I would work with the client on that, and it depends on how quickly they want to move forward. If you're doing cabinetry, because it needs to be a little bit more precise. I don't know that I would move forward at this time. I think I would probably sit tight for another couple weeks until we could get back in to do final measures. If I were really desperate and it really had to happen, I would probably have my cabinet maker on the Zoom call with us and do a three-way conference where he was asking for the specific measurements that he needed to accommodate. So I think, measures, I've found that like even with my clients that I'm working with virtually right now, they're really agreeable. They want to move forward and they understand. Like there's never been a better understanding. How many times have we had to cancel appointments in the past and clients get so mad when you reschedule with them because they're like, I want this so bad and you come now. But clients are really understanding and they're home and they want some help. They're happy to like get measurements for you and take pictures, extra photos for you, and like be your eyes on the site. It's not perfect, but it's not going to be for a while. So it's just kind of adapting and being able to work in a different way. And again, opening your eyes to those different opportunities.
Yeah, and I saw some people post questions, and I've seen a lot of this happen across the various platforms that I'm a part of, where clients were actually like having meltdowns because home design professionals were like, we have to stop work, and people were asking for your advice on how to. I mean, it seems very straightforward, but their clients were literally freaking out that they
Wow.
wouldn't come onto the projects and they wouldn't come onto the job site. Obviously, there's no standardization right now. Susan and I
Right.
are both in California. California and New York seem a little bit different than what's happening. Somebody did also comment, and Susan did say that she's based in California, but we do want to make it clear that each state's unemployment and rules and regulations are
Right.
different. It's
Different.
imperative that each person reviews your state. Like,
Yeah.
for example, in Washington, they have emergency funding and they have an online process. So definitely check in with your state, your lawyer, your attorney. This is just Susan's experience and she's trying to help you and share with you, but your process is different. And these conversations, and Susan, we had it in the conversation in the happy hour the other day, where it's frustrating if some people are still going on to job sites and doing this. And you said maybe, and there was different steps in where the process and the project is. Like if it's a new build, is it okay for people to still be working? What's your kind of perspective? I know you have some strong feelings on this topic.
I do have some strong feelings because I take essential and non-essential very seriously. So installing a light fixture in the master bedroom of my client's home to me is non-essential. I don't need to send my contractor out because it's not just sending him out to the site. My contractor now needs to go to Home Depot and he needs to touch all the shelves and get all the materials he needs to go out there. Then he has to drive and go get gas for his truck. And so he's handling the gas station and all of that. Then he's going to get something to eat or a coffee. He's handling all that. Then he's showing up to my client's house. And I think they came out today and said on the Princess cruise ships, they were finding the coronavirus had survived for 17 days on a hard surface. So I don't want, as a business owner, that liability to know that my contractor got sick 2 weeks from now to have to go back and tell my client, oh, hey, by the way, my contractor tested positive. And I don't want my contractor, likewise, to be in a family's home where they've tested positive and now he has to worry about him and his family. And so this whole thing really of stay home was predicated on everybody's cooperation, right? Everybody working together and saying, we're all in this together. If we could just stop all non-essential, like nobody's going to die if that light fixture doesn't get hung in the master. Now, the caveat to that is not all areas of the country are the same. We are in a densely populated area here. If I had a client that was right in the middle of a remodel and had no water at their sink, no dishwasher, no nothing, I would get them set up ASAP. And I would make the arrangements, with gloves and hats, boot, whatever it took to make sure that they got their sink hooked up and a dishwasher and a cooktop if they were going to be stuck. Do I need to go back and caulk the cabinets? I have a kitchen that's 3/4 of the way done. It's probably more like 90% done. But we need to like caulk the cabinets and we need to add like a couple of the cabinet doors are missing and we're being redone and they're done, they're ready to be installed. But have I sent my guy over there to do them because it's construction? No, I haven't, because it's not essential. So until we all work together, the sooner we can like shut this down, then the sooner we can all get back to work. But for some of the companies, it boggles my mind in San Diego to see some of these design build companies that are still believe that remodeling a house that's vacant where nobody's living there anyway is a priority and that they need to have their guys out in the field. I had another neighbor in our neighborhood had 6 guys out in front of our house pouring a concrete driveway. And granted, it was outside, but there are all these contractors working and everybody was told to stay home. And it's really hard to see because to me, a driveway is kind of non-essential. Like you could live without it for 2 to 3 weeks. So I don't know. It's different for everybody and everyone. Everybody's got slightly different business models, and people will take advantage of whatever loopholes because it was really nebulous. So I can't blame them because they want to keep working, and so do I. But it really came down to really, is it worth it? Life and death. Do I really have to be doing that right now and having my guys in this house with 4 kids working on tile, like
Yeah.
in a bathroom that they don't even use? So
But then if it's
it's
a new
different.
build and there's nobody in the home.
If it's a new build, I think what I have personal feelings about the lobbying and everything else that went on with the governor's statement. So, we are in a housing crisis in California. People are trying to get into housing. So for the housing construction industry that has houses framing or roofs are pulled off or whatever, I can see wanting to kind of move some of that stuff ahead and let them go ahead with the new builds. I don't understand it all the time, but I think a new build and new construction to get people into homes probably takes priority over, we can't do without our housing. If they go under, then, that's a huge thing. Over like somebody's remodeled home, right? Like just stop. Like I'm not demoing out a bathroom until I know I have all my materials
Yep.
because I don't want to demo out and be stuck with the water turned off for 3 weeks. So, I need to have my valves. I need to get these things. And until I get them, I don't want to demo out because it's easier to leave an intact space than to demo it out and then be stuck. And even though I would, like from a business perspective, I could say, I'll go in and demo it out and then they're stuck. Now they have to use me, right? Now they have to go forward to get me to put it back together. I'm
Have
not
you
going to do that.
anything that specifically stating what aspects of construction are really essential? Has there been any
Yeah.
documentation?
You have to hunt and peck for it, but if you go into the governor's statement, you can find it. And it's still kind of nebulous, but it's really related to infrastructure, roads, road maintenance, bridges, hospitals, emergency plumbing and electrical. Like if your sink is or toilet is leaking all over your floor, then yes, we got to send somebody out there. I had a client. I just reacted last week. I had this client that we had put a new fireplace in over a year ago, and the client paid the contractor directly. I didn't even subcontract it. Like I had nothing to do with it. We just did the design for it. One of my junior designers handled it, and she called and said they smelled gas. And so we said, okay, send SDG out and see what's going on. And they said it's leaking out the valve. And without even like looking at her paperwork, it's been over a year since I worked for her. I sent my plumber out there to go fix it. And then come to find out that we never subcontracted the original fireplace. The fireplace people never even touched it. It had nothing to do with her fireplace. It was the wall valve. But I still sent somebody out there because it's a gas leak and like you don't want to mess around with that. So for us, it's that kind of triage of saying, okay, what's the most important thing that we have to keep working on and what's the stuff that can wait? And that was a high priority, like we'll just send our plumber out there to fix it because I didn't, at that point, I didn't have time. I didn't have the grace of 2 days to look up through all her paperwork and figure out if it was our fault or not. We just sent somebody out there, so.
Okay, and then I have time for 2 more questions that I really thought
Okay.
was really interesting. Like,
I know there's
what?
so much we didn't even get to. I have my whole list of red line stuff over here okay.
I know. We have, okay, we'll do a round 2, guys. And I know a lot of people are asking for the link to the virtual happy hour. I will share you on the link. We will make it happen. Just make sure, and I'll send out rules and etiquette and that kind of stuff because your faces are actually shared. It does feel, I've been doing these virtual workouts with my friend and then I'm streaming the other thing and it feels like you're really with people and interacting. It feels great. It's very inspiring. Ours lasted 2 hours last week. Maybe we'll condense it to 1 hour this week. But I thought this was a really great question for those who have their businesses severely slowed down and they have downtime. Can you recommend which licenses may have short and long-term value since we have more time now to study and for tests? What kind of specialty or trade licenses do you recommend? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it is. Well, you're not going to like my answer because I'm I'm like the antithesis of the whole trade licensing stuff. So
You have
I
a
know there's
general
a huge
contractor's
divide.
license.
We
Maybe
do.
some.
Our firm has the general contractor's license. I think, and that's specific for California. A lot of people don't need a general contractor's license in other states, but for California we did. So no, I don't. I think I have mixed feelings about it. I think education is always hugely valuable, whether you're going for it for the degree of it or you're going for the learning. Anything that you can do to learn during this period obviously is super valuable. Um, so it would be more about what are you learning? Did you always want to know about counters? Like I talked to a designer last week that I thought I was going to tape this whole hour and a half conversation about window coverings because she's been in design, but she hasn't really sold window coverings before. She's always subbed it out because she didn't know how to make money on window coverings. And so I spent an hour and a half explaining the different types of window coverings, from shades to draperies to valances to Roman shades, all of these things, and how you can, get in touch with fabricators and contractors and how you can have them made and how you don't have to sub them out to one company and how, where the profitability is and everything like that. That's the type of education, me personally, that I will go after versus
Susan, I don't want to cut you
necessarily worrying
off.
about a degree. That's okay.
I don't want to cut you off, but I'm using a new webinar software and it might cut us off. So if it does,
Okay,
there
that's
are
fine.
5 key takeaways that the community can implement right now that we discussed. Can you cover those 5 key takeaways? It hasn't cut us off
Okay,
yet.
really fast. There's not just 5, but hang on to some of your resources. You may not, you will need it later. You may not need it right now, but kind of get into kind of save mode. Talk to your service providers and find out about their inventory and what they're willing to do for you and what they can help you with and how they can be a resource for you. Figure out your import situation for furniture, what's going to be allowed into the country, what kind of inventory your people have on stock. Now's a great time to find local fabricators to make things for you so that you're not ordering from retailers. Then go direct and support a local small business. Figure out your other skill sets, whether it's education you want to learn, engage with your community and remind them that you're a small business. So keep talking to people in your community, keep being the squeaky wheel, offer value and offering new free things, and it creates some loyalty. Advertise in your markets, reach out to past clients and ask for referrals, and work on your platforms to improve them. And vodka.
Okay, it didn't cut us out. Okay, so we're good.
Okay, good. Okay, I know I ran through that so fast. No, and then I think I think I've been so frenetic this week and trying to kind of figure out all these different options and trying to put plans in place and systems and everything else, and take advantage of some of the downtime to offer different things like trainings and stuff like that for people. But I honestly, there's also real value in just stopping for a little bit and realizing that there's a lot of it is out of our control, and it's okay to just stop and be with your family and be with your kids and not be too tied up in what am I going to do, what am I going to do, what am I going to do, because the reality is that even though I can spew my opinions and what I think might happen, the reality is we just don't know. It's all kind of very tenuous right now, and it's very anxiety producing. And the only thing that you can really honestly control is your reaction to it and how you are going to take care of you during this time. Some people might find getting involved in a lot of different things is really helpful. Some might say, screw it, I'm going to have a cocktail at 3 o'clock and I'm going to watch a movie with my kids. And that's all I can do today. And that's okay. And that there is no right answer because we're just all navigating this for the first time, and that's okay. And that's all we can do. But if it interests you to learn more, then go take those courses. If it interests you to do stuff.
Question, I'm cutting you off.
Okay, that's fine. I know, I did. I go off.
No, I'm just responding to some people that have responded. NARI, CKBR, CR, CRPM. I don't know what all these things stand for, but right. Definitely I believe in education, and even if it's not the specific licensing, there's a lot of different ways to educate yourself, your systems, your processes, one pagers, and the more knowledgeable you can become, the better that you and stronger you can come back as a designer, builder, architect, and represent this knowledge to your client. I definitely think we will do a round 2, Susan. We are out of time. I apologize. I hate ending things. I'm the worst. But there are so many remarks and everybody saying thank you for your time. You're super knowledgeable. People really appreciated it. This link will be sent out to you as a recording. I will also make sure to send a link to the virtual happy hour. Follow Susan. She has more information to share. We're in this together, and let us know how we can help you. Thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Goodbye, guys. Bye.
Bye.